vein at the top of the Wrightson Bloodstock Sales Complex at Karaka. Yes, it's the scene once again of the Land Rover Horse of the Year show, this time 1995. Well, we're 20 minutes south of Auckland City near Papakura, and today our coverage of this final day's competition focuses on 3 events. Hello everyone and welcome along, and I think you'll enjoy what we've got lined up for you for the next 2 hours. 3 distinctively different events too. The Pony 2-Fence Challenge, where it's a real test for both rider and the jumping ability of the horse. And then later it's the Dirt Speed Championship, where horse and rider are going against the clock. And the ultimate show jumping prize, the Horse of the Year title, to be decided over 2 rounds. You know, it's been a strange old day here at Karaka this afternoon. Intermittent rain showers have made it a little slippery on top and at times a little treacherous for the horses. Well, all the familiar names that you know from the equestrian world have gathered here to compete in the Land Rover Horse of the Year show. And the first event that we're going to show you is just that, to decide the ultimate title. We go to action in round 1, and our commentators are Brian O'Flaherty and Ann Symes.
Well, there are not many jockeys who can come into the ring at 24 and say they've been winning Grand Prix at this level for 9 or 10 years, but this is one of them, John Gray, formerly of Wellington, son of the late Ken Gray, and now of Tokoroa. And this is a horse which has actually been bought for Japanese clients.
Yes, Brian, the Yoshida family, who are the biggest racehorse owners in Japan and also breeders.
Yoshida, of course, a very familiar name, as Anne says, in the thoroughbred world, proprietors of Shadai Farm. Shinsuke Yoshida has recently spent 3 or 4 weeks in New Zealand with John and Ann Symes riding on the New Zealand circuit. Water usually a problem for him?
It's not usually. That's usually his problem. A vertical into a combination. This is a big ox of the Beltee.
Yes. Down to a treble with 12 faults already against him, Proclaimer. The last one makes 16. Proclaimer and John Gray. John Gray comes out for his second attempt at this title with Meridian. And like his first mount, Proclaimer, this is owned in Japan.
Yes, it's owned in Japan, again by the Yoshida family.
John, in fact, spends a good deal of the year in Japan, does he not?
Yes, he does. 9 or 10 months a year. John and I have a business based in Tokyo where these horses are used.
He also competes very successfully there.
Yes, he's been the leading rider in Japan for 2 years running. And he broke the height record this year just gone. He jumped 7'4".
7 feet 4.
He may have put his feet on that tape. No. Oh, I don't know what happened there, but it wasn't quite what John wanted.
This horse was bought in Australia. Is he a thoroughbred?
Yes, he is a thoroughbred. His nickname is Brumby.
Now, why would one choose that nickname for an Australian thoroughbred? Beautifully through the treble there. And so that's the second clear only in this Land Rover Horse of the Year competition. The first round, Meridian joins Chaplin.
It's whittled down to 12. So round 2 about to get underway. The Land Rover Horse of the Year Championship. Let's join commentators Brian O'Flaherty and Ann Symes.
I don't recall how close John's been to winning the Horse of the Year in the past, but he's, I doubt, ever been closer than this.
No, certainly not. He doesn't have top-level horses in New Zealand because he spends most of his time out of the country, and he's been lucky this year to have these 2 good horses. What he has to do to win this class is go clear, and then there'll be a jump-off between John and Chaplin, and if he doesn't go clear, Chaplin's got it. lucky there. He's not looking particularly safe. He's given third a rub as well.
Over the Bomac, still clear. Hold your breath, Anne, as he comes to the double. 2 jumping efforts left. But he's done it, and we go through to a jump off. In the 95 Land Rover Horse of the Year.
Slow, because otherwise if he has maybe the last fence down, the double, Vicky could get him.
John Gray has been riding Hank.
So John Gray coming to the flags now. The last horse to go, the last competitor in the 95 Land Rover Horse of the Year. The horse ahead of him, the only other in the jump off, has 8 faults. If John finishes with fewer than 8, he wins, and he's already got 4 faults at 1. He's got 1 fence in hand. The clock is ticking. Slips as he turns, but he's clean over that one. Around to the Bomac, a big vertical. Clear again. Exactly the same time at the halfway point. He's clear over the slab. Double to come. He's only got 4 faults. He's clear over the last. John Gray wins it.
Right, he's done it. That's fantastic. Good old Meridian. He's a great horse. He's been to a World Cup final. He's been shortlisted for the Olympic Games for Australia. He's a fantastic horse.
Well, John Gray wins the ultimate title in New Zealand show jumping, just as his father Ken before him won the ultimate title in the field of rugby. He was an All Black in the 60s. Now John is the champion show jumper in another field. John Gray on Meridian.
It's been said many times that John's as good a show jumper as Ken was a rugby player, and it's very sad he's not here today to see it.
Well, John Gray, a very special day in your life, winning the prestigious championship you've just won.
Yeah, very much. It's the one we all want to win more than anything else, and today I had my chance, and yeah, I'm really thrilled. Very excited.
Were you nervous going into the jumper?
Well, I was very nervous going into the second round because I knew at that point that it was the best chance I'll ever have. I had one of the only 2 cleans. I had the best draw at that point. So getting that far was so far along the line, I thought, you know, if I make a mess of it from here, that would have been the worst thing. But I just knew I had to keep it together and keep my cool and just ride the plan and hope that it would come together.
John Gray spends a lot of time in Japan, and the horse Meridian is destined to head that way as well.
Yeah, he is. He leaves in May. He has Japanese owners, and I must thank very much the Yoshida family of Shadai Farms in Hokkaido for being the owners of such a wonderful horse. And I spend about 8 or 9 months of the year up there running our horse business in Japan.
So the ultimate prize for any show jumper, of course, is to win here today, and for any rider it is the most prestigious trophy. But for you, there's a long family history, which so therefore a lot of feeling about this win here.
Yeah, there is. I was very lucky. I had a lot of support in my early days to get going riding, and I had a lot of advantages, and I'd actually like to dedicate this win to my father, because this would have been something that he would love to have seen. So for me, it's just been sort of a long progression, and you always hope that you end up in this spot, winning this one, because it's the horse of the year, and that's the one we all want.
Well, John Gray, this is your day. Congratulations, a fantastic victory, right down to the wire. You did it in the end, and you won the Land Rover Championship. Well done.
Thank you very much. Well, my horse did it mainly, but I was on top of it.
Horse of the Year title holder John Gray. He's also on the squad for the Olympic Games. John, welcome home. And what have you been doing since you've been back?
Thanks, Sam. Well, I'm back to business as usual, going to all the shows, riding my younger horses, and getting ready to go back overseas in the middle of March.
Now, I think you're heading off soon to have a look for a horse for the Games. Is that right?
Yes, I am. I'm going to Holland, and there's hopefully a possible horse there that we can use for the Games. But that'll all have to work out, and the horse will have to be the right sort of horse. And then again, even if that happens, it's a long way from finally making it. We've still got to impress the selectors, and the team as a whole has to do well in Europe.
Now, what about the funding of a horse? Like, obviously they must be expensive, Olympic horses. What's the story there?
Well, everyone has their own way of going about it. Being independently wealthy is the shortest and easiest. Failing that, which unfortunately I do, I have some investors in Japan who would like to be owners of a horse that goes to the Games. So That's the way I've personally gone about it.
John Gray salutes the jury booth here in Manukau City, where we have ideal conditions for show jumping today. John Gray, who domiciles most of his time in Japan, where he's been a driving force behind the world stage of Japanese show jumping, becoming a prominent force to be reckoned with. We saw him, of course, earlier today, competing for the Japanese in our Sanyo Team Invitational competition. Now on course with the stakes a little bit higher in an individual sense aboard Proclaimer.
Proclaimer has just actually arrived in New Zealand from Australia. So we haven't seen a lot of this horse here yet, but what a beautiful type of a horse. Really does take the eye. John was a little concerned that the track may have been a bit strong for him, but he's a very good, very good rider. He'll give him every chance to get round that course happily.
John was not alone in his concerns about the size of the course. It is a real test. That sentiment was echoed by the likes of Mark Todd, John Cottle, those that have seen the biggest courses in the world around the world. And right now, John Gray giving us a sample of the type of horseman he is. He's currently on a clear round on a horse that doesn't have all that much international experience. And he's getting it done with Proclaimer to date. Had a few rubs, but all the rails, I believe, are still in the cups.
John was the leading rider of the year at our Horse of the Year show in '93. Most points over those accumulated points over the classes. He's building up a very good record for himself.
And Proclaimer's building up a fairly good resume here in our Fairform Grand Prix, as he's currently on a clear round. But as we've seen before, you must negotiate every one of these fences, Penny.
This last fence is causing a bit of a problem.
Let's see if the jitters get to him. He's coming towards the signature line here in our competition.
Oh.
And he'll want to go and have it out with the course designer,
I think
sure.
so. He and some others so far.
The last rail comes down. That's the heartbreak line here today. 86.65 the time on that round. On 4 faults for our entry of John Gray Grand Prix, but still plenty of quality entries left to go, including the legendary Mark Todd, who will be our final entry of the first round. But look now, another great international rider from New Zealand who spends most of his time in Japan developing their international program, John Gray, and he's aboard Meridian.
Meridian's another recent arrival to New Zealand from Australia. This horse has had a wonderful international record, being ridden by Australian rider Colin Brook, competing in World Cup final in '92 in Del Mar. He's been a wonderful international horse. Towards the end of his career now, he's been purchased for John's Japanese clients. What a wonderful schoolmaster he'll be for them.
Of course, when you're developing a program for a nation that hasn't spent a lot of time in international show jumping, the horses can teach the riders a tremendous amount based on their international experience. Meridian, having been to the World Cup finals and tasted the competition not only in North America, but with the Europeans, who have a centuries-old tradition in this sport, you can see that this horse will be a valued addition to the Japanese national stable.
This horse has a good chance of giving us our first clear round, but I don't like to talk too soon.
Well, we've seen it before.
Last
They come into our Fairform signature line, jumping over that massive vertical towards the outgate. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it can be done in a time of 80.01 seconds.
Time is right.
Good ride from John. Only sat on the horse for the first time last week. He'll be delighted.
Put in by John Gray and Meridian. 7 others will challenge when we return with more action. Harvey Wilson at the top of our leaderboard. Harvey has guided Pirate to a two-round performance, of 4 faults. Proclaimer bringing 4 faults from the first round in a time of 86.65. John Gray, a busy man this afternoon and all week, competing in the Fairform International Show Jumping Festival. Today, of course, with the Sanyo Invitational Team event, and now in the Grand Prix. This is John Gray.
John's having a wonderful show, taking first and second prizes in the futurity class earlier in the show. He's really right on form at the moment. As you say, Ian, he's got another start on Meridian later in this class. Meridian's the only horse sitting on a clear round at the moment, so the pressure's going to really be on them.
This competition, a cumulative competition over 2 rounds. Currently Harvey Wilson leading the way on 4 faults, as
John Gray will look to join Harvey at the top of the board here and perhaps force a jump off as he pops up over our Fairform signature fence and leaving all the rails in the cups for a 2-round total of 4 and a time of 44.51 seconds on that round.
Next rider into the ring, number 5, Proclaimer, and John Gray. Proclaimer, an Australian horse. And I guess you'll know more about this one, Anne.
Yes, Proclaimer is in fact New Zealand bred, despite the fact that we purchased him in Australia on behalf of the Yoshida family. He's a 10-year-old thoroughbred gelding by Warhawk. He went to Australia actually as a racehorse and has come back to New Zealand as a show jumper. He's here basically in transit. He goes on, after the Horse of the Year competition, he goes on to Japan to his new owner, who will compete him under John's guidance.
John Gray, of course,
So, Proclaimer underway. John was last year's champion rider in Japan.
Yes, he also jumped 7'4", which was the Japanese height record last year.
Riders, but here's of course one of our main show jumpers.
John has not competed the entire season here in New Zealand, hence he's not up in the first dozen riders on the World Cup. I think one of his first rides in the World Cup this year, and
yes, this is actually only his second ride. He hasn't been in New Zealand, as Bruce said, to be able to contest this series.
Heading down the line in front of the stand. And safely over that, a round of applause in the background. The first rider down that line, clear. 2 fences from home, a slight rub at fence 11. He's got 1 to go. Could this be our first clear round? Over the wall, and it is. Rushes to the flag, takes a look across at the clock. He's under the time, so our first clear round to John Gray and Proclaimer. Having another look at down the treble, he jumped pretty well then.
Yes, he did. Yes, he's a good, careful horse.
Next horse into the arena, number 12 of 17 riders. This is Meridian, to be ridden by John Gray.
This is another of the horses that we bought in Australia. He was owned and ridden by Colleen Brook, who is one of Australia's leading riders. He went to the World Cup final for Australia. He also campaigned in Europe, won a World Cup or two actually, a World Cup qualifier in Europe. So he's really a very famous old campaigner, Meridian.
So to this stage of the round, all clear.
John's only had one other show on this horse, so it's a very, very new partnership. It's never an easy way of attacking a course like this.
And so when you say it's a young partnership, Anne, just how long has John had the horse?
I think the horse has been in the country only a fortnight, and John's ridden him at one other competition.
So he's obviously going pretty well, clear to this stage. We saw him reach a little through the middle of the treble, but he's all clear, 1 to go. And this is really hotting up. That gives us our 6th clear round. As we take a look at the replay through the treble, watch the horse Meridian reach for the second fence with his front legs. A fine effort as we go now to number 13, Watch Me, and John Cottle.